Hello, YouTube and Facebook. Today I'm going to be talking about witchcraft and how I practice it. I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm just going to, give you some of the basics. Because people have been asking, what type of witch am I? Do I do magic a lot? Am I more philosophical or ceremonial or left-hand path or whatever? So this video is for those of you who have been asking those questions. So what type of witch am I? I tend to be left-hand path. Um, the whole idea with the right-hand path, with the saying, thine will be done. So with that, there's always that emphasis on God or divinity being outside yourself, whereas the left-hand path, the saying is, my will be done, which denotes that divinity is from within. So I tend to subscribe to that. I tend to be very ceremonial, and I'm ceremonial for a lot of reasons. I'm ceremonial because it's beautiful. I love doing rituals. I think it's very, I take an artistic approach to it. You know, I take a magical approach, of course, but as an artist, as a musician, I love music in my rituals. I love putting together an altar. I love just the whole framework of it. As a musician and as an artist, it is something that appeals to me. I take from a variety of sources, mostly from people like Aleister Crowley and Joe Gardner and Alexander Sanders, who is also very ceremonial in what he did. And I take their cue and I run with it. I also tend to be shamanistic in my approach to the craft. Um, the whole idea, and Rosalind Norton kind of talked about this a little bit in the art that she did. The whole idea of going to the Witch's Sabbath on the astral plane and working with the spirits of the astral plane is something that fascinates me. It is something that I have done, and it could really change your perception of reality. I remember once, and I believe I told this story in another YouTube video, but I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of it right now. I remember one time I was in the astral plane and I came across a witch, very, very, very old. And it was funny because she was this stereotypical Halloween witch, something that, before this, I would kind of say, don't show me that green witch or whatever. But she was extremely powerful, and she was all green. And when I woke up, after this experience, I remember one of my teachers, Ronnie, who was the daughter of Gundella, a famous witch here in Michigan. She would paint herself green when she did rituals. And her mother did the same thing, and it was one of the traditions that they did. So I found that very interesting. And the fact that when I did encounter this witch on the astral plane, she was all green. Now, in her case, it was not food coloring or anything like that. She was green. And very powerful, and I would almost say fierce. And it was definitely, you felt like you were in the presence of something very powerful, something very ancient. It felt like an archetype. So to go back into those realms and to experience beings like that is something that I'm very much into. I guess you could say that would be ceremonial. I'm not ceremonial, shamanistic in nature. And I would say yes. It is very shamanistic in nature. It's fact. The fact that you're going into another realm, communicating with spirit in that other realm, and coming back to this realm and sharing with other people what you've learned. That's very shamanistic. So I tend to be very shamanistic in my approach to the craft. One of the main nectars or deities, for lack of a better word, that I work with will be Baphomet. That's why one reason why you see me in a lot of videos wearing this Baphomet here. Baphomet represents the pure, unadulterated, primal force in nature. Baphomet is both male and female. It represents the sun and the moon. It represents the fertility in nature. It represents nature itself in a very primordial way. So that is definitely something I associate my craft to. Some people see Baphomet as being the devil. I mean, more power to you. I don't necessarily see Baphomet as being the devil or anything like that. My concept of the devil is different. My concept of Satan would be more along the lines as the adversary, and the way I practice my craft is very adversarial. But that's something that's more private. If you see me in person, you can ask me a little bit more about that. But yeah, that is one of the reasons why I wear Baphomets a lot. Primordial force in nature. When I do my magic, a lot of it has to do with the suspension of belief. Some people call it the suspension of disbelief or belief or whatever. Whatever your main thinking is about magic. Growing up in this Western world, a lot of times we question everything because that's the way we've been taught. We've been taught by people who are mostly left-brain people, and that can be a problem. When I mean left brain, I don't mean left-hand path in this respect. I mean people who just think logically. Now, the interesting thing is, they say, the neuroscientist says that the left part of your brain controls the right side of your body, and the right part of your brain controls the left side of your body, or whatever. But I do know that when I was little, I used to do things with my left hand. And of course, growing up in this crazy society, they make you do things with your right hand. And they were still doing that when I was a kid. And I hear today that they're not doing that anymore, or they're not supposed to. Or some parents tell their teachers not to teach them that, which I think is great. The interesting thing is I still get people who freak out if I grab something, and this is older people, by the way, if I grab something with my left hand. I remember one time I was with this older lady, and I had grabbed the door with my left hand, and she kind of freaked out, and it was like, you grabbed that with your left hand? I was like, yeah, and what's up with that, But yeah, there's still some older people who kind of freak out about the left hand. Now just think, if I was not taught to just use my right hand, and I could use my left hand, and if I could use my right and my left hand, I could play like Jimi Hendrix. Because Jimi Hendrix played with his right hand and his left hand. He play right-sided and left-sided. He would turn his guitar upside down. What a phenomenal player! People, when they think about Jimi Hendrix and when they analyze him as a musician, they never mention that a lot. The fact that he could play this way or that way. There's very few musicians that I think that can do that. I think maybe Michelangelo might be able to do that, because I'm not sure if he's left-handed, but I know he plays with a double neck guitar and he solos like this. If you don't know who I'm talking about, Google Michelangelo Batio. Excellent guitar player, and a nice guy too. I think I posted a video of the first time I met him in person, and awesome, awesome guy. But anyway, to kind of recap to what I was saying, I tend to be left-hand path. I'm not afraid of some of the imagery that I use. Some people say, well, that imagery is too dark, or why you wear black all the time, and this and that and the other. It's like, this is me. Even if I wasn't a witch, I would be wearing black. Um, Part of the reasons why I wear black is because some of the, and this is not necessarily tied to magic per se, but I remember taking guitar lessons back in the late 80s. Kind of showing my age here, but the late 80s, and I remember being in a music store and just being, just loving the pictures of Richie Blackmore and Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath, and both of those guys wore black a lot, and I think that had a influence on me. And this reason why I wear black most of the time. So I'm not afraid of the imagery of Baphomet, or the inverted pentagram. As I said in other videos, the inverted pentagram is actually the pentagram that Pythagoras used. He used it way before it was considered evil or associated with the devil or anything like that. And mentioning the devil, I don't subscribe to the Christian version of the devil or Satan or anything like that. Only in the fact that I view Satan as the adversary, the accuser. Devil is. I heard a lot of things about the word devil. Some people say it means Devi, or it comes from India and it represents God or something like that. I don't know. But I don't see it as anything evil. The word demon, I don't use the word demon, I use the word daemon, which means a guardian spirit. I think that we all have that to a greater or lesser degree, depending on who you are and how attuned you are. Here's a little side note. One of the people who are best known to have a daemon is Socrates. Before Socrates would say anything or do anything, he would consult this daemon. It was his guardian force that was always around him. And if that daemon said no, he would say no to whatever he was doing. So, if you want someone to blame for the word daemon or demon, blame Socrates. No. But I'm sure that that concept is a lot older than Socrates. But yeah, that is the way I view it. And that's basically pretty much it. I had a lot of teachers growing up in the craft. I've been a witch for over 20 years. I would say maybe 25, as far as acknowledging myself as being a witch. Yeah, it's got to be over 25, I think. I never really put a date on it, but I've been a witch for quite a long time. Technically, I would say over 20 years, 25 years. If I'm looking at it as far as not placing a date on it necessarily, or I would say placing a date on it, because I would say my birthday, because I've always been a witch, even before I knew what witchcraft was. But that's my take on it. That is why I use a lot of the darker images. I'm not Christian, so I don't mind a lot of images like this, the Baphomet, because I'm not Christian. I don't make any excuse for that. So why would that bother me in my use of the craft? So, like I said, that's my take on it. That's the way I view it. And this is just my opinion and my way of expressing myself. I know other witches express themselves differently. I know Wiccans express themselves differently. I know, ceremonial magicians express themselves differently. And, as far as witchcraft is concerned, there are so many different kinds of witches. So, like I said, this is just my take on it. I tend to be very philosophical about my approach to the craft also. Um, when I first went to Wayne State University, I wanted to major in music and kind of get a minor in philosophy because I've always been interested in that. And I took quite a few philosophy courses at Wayne State University and came close to getting a degree in philosophy. And looking back, I was close to getting a degree in religious studies also because I took, comparative religion. I took a class called comparison of religious studies or something similar to that. So I took a lot of classes on religion. I took Near Eastern Studies, which is a great class. But I think I really learned philosophy when I left college and started studying on my own because they really don't teach you true philosophy when you're in college. If they really did teach you philosophy in college when you graduated, you would probably work on being a CEO of a big company or something, or live a better lifestyle than a lot of people who have these fancy degrees do. When I excuse me, when I go visit, a lot of my former teachers, and sometimes I get granted by going over their houses, and their houses are not bigger than my own, and they don't drive a car that's more fancy than the car I drive. It kind of makes you wonder, did you really learn philosophy when you got your fancy degree or whatever? It really makes you wonder. But anyway, that's my take on this, and like I said, this is my take. What works for me might not work for you. Okay, until next time, Uncle Jocelyn, peace, and I'm going to pick up the mic and I am going to sign off. So peace out, guys.